Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. So you may notice we're at a different camera angle right now. That shifty, that's me looking at OBS right there. So for my anniversary with Mel, she actually got me a brand new desk, one that is specifically made for gaming. It has armrests built into the side. It's nice little stylized on the ends, on the back, on the sides, and it's quite comfortable. It also means that I can now look directly at the camera instead of being like this and then just like looking off to the side. You may also notice that you can see my tan slightly better. I've been outside quite a bit playing Pokemon Go. In fact, after this, I'm going to go for a little bit of a walk. But Mondays with Mr. Happy, you guys know the drill. So let's see, what should we do? Should we do them here or here? Here or here? You know what? Let's still do them over here. The video record. Actually, you know what? How about the bottom? Ooh, look right there. Wait, that's way better. Let's do that. Let's do just under my neck right here. How about that? Yeah? Okay, right here. A few videos that we did over the course of this past week. Also, do not forget Final Fantasy Count Up starts July 25th. That is going to be the event where we live stream every main numbered Final Fantasy game from 1 through 13 over on Twitch. I know some of you want to know if I'll upload it to YouTube. Currently, the plan is 2 days after a broadcast to upload the broadcast in bulk. I mean, if it's a 5-hour broadcast, it takes 5-6 hours to render. If it's an 8-hour broadcast, it takes 8 or 9 to render. And then you got to consider the upload time. And you got to consider that I'm not going to stream and upload at the same time. So pretty much render one night, upload the next while I'm sleeping. That way we can get the footage onto YouTube. And I'll basically have playthroughs of Final Fantasy 1 through 13 on my YouTube channel. So that's something to look forward to. Also this Tuesday, Deep Dungeon, patch 3.35. I will be streaming it, though I don't think I'm going to do a super early stream. I actually have some more exciting things to do today for you guys, since this is for Mondays with Mr. Happy. I'm actually going to be joining my friend UGR. He's another Twitch broadcaster. I'm going to be joining him for some Dead by Daylight. We will be on the front page of Twitch that day. So if you go to Twitch between 7 and 9 p.m. CST, then you will find us there on the front page. So I recommend you do that. I don't know if we're streaming directly from UGR's channel. I asked him if there were any other details. He's just like, I'll see you Monday. Cool. That's what we're going to be doing. And then on top of that, Tuesday we have Deep Dungeon. We have I Am Setsuna. I will do my best to upload my review or playthrough of that before Final Fantasy Count Up actually starts over on the 25th. Don't forget, this week was State of the Realm. We also have Michael Magic Man Byrne joining us to talk about Deep Dungeon. Also, we're going to catch up with him a little bit, see what he's been up to in the over 1 year since the last time he made his appearance on State of the Realm. Good old ex-co-host. I miss him. It's okay. Slide does a good job. Anyway, let's get started with the questions this week, and we actually have a video question submission. In case you guys didn't know, we are now accepting questions in the form of video submissions, assuming they are appropriate. There's an email under the video in the description. We did it specifically for the 100th episode. I think it's an idea that we can continue doing for those of you who feel comfortable recording a video, uploading it to YouTube, or attaching it immediately to there. I recommend uploading to YouTube directly and then sending the video in an email. That's what this person did today. So let's check out the first video question.
Hello, Mr. Happy. I'd say let's keep doing those video questions. So here comes mine for this week. What would you do if you could replace Yoshi P for one single day?
Alright, so first of all, thank you for the video submission. Short, sweet, and straight to the point. You know how to ask questions, that's for damn certain. Second of all, greetings to you too. It said greetings from Japan in the email, so thank you for sending this email all the way from Japan. Well, I guess it's the internet, so it's not like you physically sent me a video from Japan, you know what I'm saying? But a short, sweet, and straight to the point question, probably one of the more difficult ones. What would I do if I could replace Yoshi P for a day? So the big problem with that is that anything I do on that one day needs to be carried out. Like if there's the guarantee that anything I do on that day will be executed and carried out, the number of things, man, it's a matter of I'd probably have to take the whole day to even get familiar with the work process over there. I'd definitely be a 24-hour straight kind of day. There's no way I would waste any time sleeping, and I guarantee you there's a few people in that office that don't ever get to sleep, so I feel like that's appropriate. But if it was down to doing something, if I'd accomplish one thing, I'd probably actually work on a piece of content that uses a lot of recycled features in order to make something entirely new, because I feel like the only way to really test to see if a feature is working and see if it's worth putting more development time into it is to take the things you already have. And Final Fantasy's been doing that for a long time, where they take recurring themes, recurring enemies, recurring attack names, things have been reused in Final Fantasy games so many times that it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone when a character model or a theme pops up again in another game. It actually probably helps speed up the development process, and as long as they make it feel original to that world, it's generally acceptable in my opinion. That being said, I would probably take the idea of, I call them ethereal fissures. I would try to ingrain that idea in the development team's head. Take a bunch of things, take a bunch of bosses that aren't too difficult in order to test it out. It's basically the idea that when you're doing hunts, you generate the seals, right? And you can spend these seals on spawn items that you can use around the world. And they are set spawn locations, they respawn fairly quickly, and they can give you decent loot. Now, you would start probably with enemies not too different from what you'd see from your standard map, but the basis behind this is that it is in all zones, it's not exclusive to one of the expansion zones, and it is always scaling up to kind of max level. And on top of that, what you can do is you can go into the world, almost makes like a mini battlefield out there, one that's locked away, other people cannot access it, which means it needs to be in areas of the map that are not super important. What it would do is basically you do the lower tier ones and you get basic things, materials very similar to maps, minions, things like that. You do the ones that are slightly higher up, you get decent item level gear, things that are items that are used in recipes for the recent raid tier gear. On top of that, things somewhat equivalent to that of Alexander Normal. And if you're feeling really frisky, you can do a super one, which is basically the equivalent of a full-blown raid boss. And since you have a limited amount of time for you to actually try to figure out that fight inside of that little circle, it gives you a reason to kind of use your seals over and over again. It gives the hunt a little bit more of a purpose, and it makes the world itself seem more active. People can actively watch you from outside of these arenas, and that I know is very nerve-wracking for some people. It's easily one of the most nerve-wracking pieces of content that would be introduced for players that aren't really used to being put under a microscope like that. So that's one of the fallbacks, but it could create a situation where you're able to create bosses. You're able to, in this case, reuse bosses that were used in previous things just to test it internally, and then, or even just put it on a beta realm. Maybe that's the other thing I should be doing there. That way people can test the feature out, get an idea for if it's a good idea in the first place. Then you can put some serious raid level rewards on the ends of those fissures, which gives people a little bit more time. You probably have to lock out like how often you could do that, but you kind of get the gist of where I'm going. It's more reasonably difficult open world content, something accessed via the hunts. It would encourage people to be doing those daily and weekly hunts as well as camping the A ranks and the S ranks fairly frequently. And with that out of the way, we should go to our first question over on the Dream Network forums. Remember, that's the other way you can ask a question, is by posting it over on the Dream Network forums. Those are also in the description of the video below. So this question right here, oh man, it's been a while since we have had questions right here, hasn't it? Sup, Haps, have a few seeds. Oh, thank God, I think I need nine more seeds to finish that Machinist anima. I have one question this week, and then food for thought. One, I'm interested in raiding, but I don't know what stats to focus on melding for my anima. And again, I main dark, working my way with full 240, a full right side, and full left side. I'm knee deep, giggity, in the 210 step, and I know crit debt is my focus, but what should I focus on after that? Well, that's all but 5 points. Keep in mind, all crit, all debt. What you do with those last 5 points, not that important. Don't put them in the parry. Skill speed's questionable because if you don't break a skill speed tier, then it's barely noticeable. Like it does do something, but unless you break that 0.01 second tier, which I believe is 26 skill speed per point, which you don't need to get solely from the weapon, but that 5 points could put you over for a tier, then it's hardly noticeable at all. I mean, that last 5 is so hard to do anything with because it's such a small amount. I mean, skill speed barely does anything. Accuracy is barely going to do anything in this case. It's a tough one. So between accuracy and skill speed, I would just go with the skill speed, to be honest. And food for thought, Estinian is the new Kane Highwind. I mean, the thing is, it's not like he is the new Kane Highwind. It's more along the lines of that, like I was saying earlier, themes are shared in Final Fantasy games very frequently. And it's no doubt that Dragoons are in some way inspired from Kane, who is pretty much, along with Sid Highwind, considered one of the OGs when it comes to the Dragoon jobs. So I don't disagree. It's just that I don't think that's necessarily delivered. It's just that you're going to see recurring themes, especially when it comes to jobs that are iconic in the series. Also, I noticed an edit here, so I was scrolling down to the next question. So their new MC static main tank is Paladin. Same answer. It's still crit over debt over either skill speed or accuracy. It's the same deal. You still don't want parry. You don't want spell speed. So yeah, pretty much same answer. All right, question number 2. Hello, Mr. Happy. No longer first-time asker, so I have one Umbrite. Hey, listen, you didn't have to offer me anything, so the Umbrite is very much appreciated. My question today is a simple one. Why does the main scenario roulette still exist? I honestly feel like Meridianum and Praetorium should just be in the level 50 roulette. I honestly never find myself doing the main scenario roulette anymore. Feel like it's a waste of a roulette for me. So, there's 2 reasons. One is because if they stuck those dungeons in the level 50 roulette, we'd see even more complaints about the people who don't want to be rushed through main scenario dungeons. You go into a main scenario roulette knowing that there's likely going to be people that want to do it at a certain pace, and that you're not always going to have a group of 8 people that have done it before and don't want to see, don't care, just want to skip cutscenes and get it done. That's kind of what the expectation of the main scenario roulette it creates. You're supposed to go in not expecting to get a quick run, and that you may have new players, new level 50 players that you're leaving an impression on. Nobody treats it like that, though, so I'll give you that one. That's the main reason why they don't appear in level 50. Actually, those were all the reasons. I don't know why I said the first one. I literally said all my reasons right there. So that's why. And on top of that, it's an extra roulette. If you want the extra SOs and you want the extra poetics, then bam, you have an extra roulette. Which, when it came to doing the anima quest line, listen, main scenario roulette, welcome. Next question. All right. What's going on, Haps? Nick's back here again to bring you another question. When I read that, I think of Kingsglaive, and I can't wait to see Kingsglaive. This one's going to be about speculations regarding 4.0. I know you don't like speculative questions that much, but here we go. If the new jobs we get are limited to 2, which is something that I've been predicting for quite some time now, and if we don't get a new race, not expecting it either, do you think they will take the resources that were needed to try and create new things, like Deep Dungeon, or more of what we have? That's not a speculative question, in all honesty. That's a question, it is a speculative question, but it's a question about where I think the allocation of resources will go in the game. When I say I don't like speculatory questions, it's more like, I came up with this idea for this job, and it has this attack and that attack, what do you think? Speculative questions I don't mind so much, because they're still somewhat thought-provoking when it comes to this, and that has been the number one question I have. We've seen the result of them taking resources and putting them into new things. We're going to be seeing it again this Tuesday. The first 2 attempts at the Diadem and Lords of Verminion didn't go well. Deep Dungeon is their chance to impress us. Aquapolis, something that, it's such a simple piece of content that you can tell, outside of designing the new zones and maybe determining the rewards, it didn't take a lot of thought. They literally just grabbed all pre-existing enemy models, stuck them in a cave, and made them spawn randomly. Probably the most impressive thing about the coding in there is the 50-50 chance of going to the next floor. But that RNG actually ended up being a great strength for the Aquapolis. It meant that the rewards from the end weren't oversaturating the market. It meant that there was sort of a sense of anticipation. Did we make it? Did we make it? Did we make the right choice? And it created a sense of camaraderie, and it created content that was easy for people to access and work together on without being overbearing on the community. Now, of course, it still came with a few issues. For one, not very challenging, which is something people have been asking for quite a bit. Is slightly more challenging, a slightly more challenging baseline for all content, so players are more encouraged to learn their jobs to a certain degree. The other thing is that if you don't really want the rewards for yourself, the prices themselves for them, not super fantastic. In all honesty, for me, the lore tomestones you get, and on top of this, the SOs you get from doing the maps themselves, worth more. I mean, don't get me wrong, materia is always great. The occasional payoff from reaching the 6th and 7th floor, always great. And to be honest, with the price drops in dragon skins, if you get an 8-person dragon skin map and everybody does one, odds are you're going to make back more than the price of a dragon skin map, which gives them a more reasonable place in the market right now. I think that we will see more things put into resources that resemble Deep Dungeon and Aquapolis. I personally would like some resources to be put into a 5th raid boss. That's just me, though. That being said, as long as they are putting in more effort, as long as we're seeing things that are more dynamic, like Aquapolis, like Deep Dungeon, then I feel like 4.0 is going to be our winner. It's going to go a lot better than 3.0's launch did, but we also don't get to test these kind of things way ahead of time because they just don't ever give us a PvE. So, still skeptical on some level, but I speculate that yes, with fewer jobs, with probably not a race, we'll see a lot more effort put into things that, well, probably are more desired by the community overall, especially content. Follow-up question from this person: what would you say to a Frontlines map built around flying mounts? I don't like flying in PvP. To me, unless you can fight on the flying mount and it adds verticality, it just doesn't suit well, because it's so easy to camp a spot and just make it so that nobody can ever land there. And then you got to start, and it also requires a lot more communication to get there. And a lot of the times, unless you're doing something competitive, that communication is usually not there, or people just aren't paying attention even if the communication is there. So I'm not a fan of the idea of adding flying to any map, or even designing a map around flying, unless there are serious countermeasures to people who are flight. Like, if, for example, if you're flying, you have like 90% damage reduction or something, or you can no longer be, your movement speed can't be slowed if you take a hit, because otherwise it's just so tedious trying to get on and off that flying mount. You know what I mean? All right, next question. Happy 101st Mr. Happy Mondays, Mr. Happy. Thank you. That's one better than 100. Ooh, yes it is. You can count. Impressive. As another bonus, have a clone of yourself to play both 3.35 and I Am Setsuna with. From what I understand, I Am Setsuna is not too long of a game, and Deep Dungeon I expect to beat in like 3 to 4 hours, so not too concerned. So it's a very serious question. When are dragons going to get their Midgard Summer as their wyvern pet? And don't worry, he says JK. He says JK. See, you just scroll down a little bit more. He says JK, guys. He said you expected 2 jobs. Which jobs do you want to see? This is a question I answer pretty frequently, so I'll give you a pretty short answer. Samurai and Red Mage are honestly the 2. I only expect those 2. I don't expect a surprise to see a job we didn't expect. I think they're going to go with what are probably the 2 most demanded jobs. And if you're going to ask me what role I think they'll be, I do think that Samurai will end up being a tank, although I want it to be a DPS. And the only reason why I think Samurai will be a tank is because I think Red Mage will be a DPS. I think it'll be our first melee range caster DPS, which, by the way, throws some balance back into the whole Bard versus Machinist thing. If you have 2 casters, even if one is melee and it's putting out damage akin to that of, you know, what Dragoon and Monk put out right now, Dragoon, Monk, and Ninja, and it also has some slightly unique utilities. I obviously expect them to get an MP equivalent of Goad. I think you all know what ability we expect that to be called. And I expect them to just be melee ranged, a lot of instant casts, a lot of empowering auto attacks kind of deal. But it's completely speculation, and there's nothing to ground that in. So I'd love to be surprised. I'd love to be surprised with more jobs. I'd love to be surprised with a job I didn't expect. But those are where my expectations are. All right, next question. Hi, Happy. First time to have all the Star Ocean 5 trophies you're missing, including that Platinum or something boring if you want, like, Umbrates. What am I didn't beat it on Universe or Chaos mode. I didn't beat 6-wing or 4-wing. I only beat 2-wing because I didn't feel like spending the time of doing the Palace 3 times over, or the Maze of Tribulations 3 times over. And then I'm missing like a bunch of little things that don't really concern me. I'll take it though. Platinum trophy's always welcome. Have 2 fairly quick questions. I'll be the judge of that. So 1, Yoshi said that grade 5 crafting and gathering material would be more accessible, but since we now know the Moogles won't give grade 5s other than rank ups, any idea we're supposed to get them from now on a regular basis? Do you think Deep Dungeon or something else? I think that was what they meant. I think that they meant the rank up quest for the Moogles were going to give people a little bit more access to grade 5 crafting and gathering. I do also suspect that the Diadem will be a reasonable place to get that in 3.4 or 3.5, depending on when it comes out. And on top of that, there's a lot more grade 4 materia. Oh, and Aquapolis. Aquapolis is another place where you get grade 5 crafting and gathering materia fairly frequently. And even if you don't, you get a lot more grade 4 materia that you can transmute. I've actually gotten some really good grade 5 materia from transmuting the grade 4 materias I get from the Aquapolis. So that is also where my expectations lie. Said that in the last question. 2, any idea where we'll see increases in the housing item limits? So they actually answered this in a recent live letter. I think they said their current goal is to get the Ishgard housing out and to increase our inventory space by a lot. Like they said they want to increase our inventory space by a lot next expansion. So I think that's where the priority is. I think after that you'll expect to see the housing item limit be increased. All right, next question. Sup, Happy? What's up? So the dev team are seemingly reluctant about putting more unique stats into gear. I did read this interview. Their reasons being ones like balance for gear becoming essential, which is, trust me, I played Final Fantasy XI. Reasonable expectation. I'm sure they played it too. That being said, would a better idea be to overhaul materia and have those contain the unique stats rather than the usual crit det? That way unique stats won't be tied to gear, but how you customize your build. I think that's the only approach. Actually, I had this discussion with my chat a few times. I don't think putting unique stats on gear is ever going to work in this game if they want to have serious balance. It needs to be something that they can reasonably work towards before going into raiding, because it will create that restriction. I fully anticipate it creating the restrictions that they are saying, where people go, if you don't have this, we don't want you. That being said, I still don't think that it's a good idea to have things like that. I want more interesting stats. The problem is that at this point, the more interesting stats need to also be boring. Like, for example, Fire 3 leaving slight trails of AoE, like little AoE flares around the target that just deals some damage over time in small areas. But then, as soon as you run into a fight that's AoE heavy, guess what ability you're required to have? But there's a trade-off there, because in a single target, would you rather cast the Fire 2, or is it worth it to hit that Fire 3 and get those flares burning? Maybe they're so short a duration that it barely even matters, and it's not worth throwing them out in an AoE situation. But then why have it in the first place? It's a slightly bigger single target damage increase, but then people want you to have the most single target damage possible. You can see where this is going when it comes to problems like that. So you can understand why they're skeptical, but I too want more interesting stats. And that is, putting him in Materia is the only way I can imagine it being possible, because it's pretty easy to make gil in this game. Until it ends up costing like 50 mil for one Materia. Then we're screwed. Alright, next question. Hey, Haps, grats to a wonderful 101 Hap Monday videos. And, as usual, we get a choice of 3 questions. I think I went with the first question last week, so let's go with the last question. Would it be beneficial if we had the option to trade in those old upgrade items for Poetics? I don't see the harm in it. Like, that's, if anything, that's even a buff to the animal weapon quest line, at least for the 210 step. Imagine doing Crystal Tower for your weekly Ether Oil and then trading in any stones, not Algotones, what are the things called? The tomestones to buy weapons, and the sands and the oils and whatnot. Imagine getting the option to just trade those in for Poetics and speed up the quest even longer. Everyone would want them. Everyone would be doing it. Well, I guess not everyone. Not everyone wants to do 210, but it's a reasonable means of making the 210 step a little easier. Adding another reason to do the 24-man raids, which is always welcome in my opinion. And just making use of an item that barely sees use anymore. I'm not opposed to that. Next question. Hey there, Haps. Hello. I have a healer DPS question for you. I love these. What is better for 24-man raids? Okay, not as thrilled anymore. Healers not using their dots so that other classes can get their more useful dots in, bard summoners and such, or just keeping that boss full of dots. Someday bosses just won't have low debuff count, but then something PS3 limitations. Well, we're still kind of under the assumption that the PS3 will be dropped in 4.0. That's not been confirmed, but it's expected. Reasonably. But at the same time, they've also made several points to say the PS3 is not limiting that. It's not limiting them in ways that we think it is, like things like the user interface. They can pretty much do that on a system-to-system basis. The inventory is more of a server-sized thing. It's less about the PS3 and not so much about the load times. That being said, it's not a bad question. I mean, it's understandable that I run into the issue all the time where my dots simply don't stick on the boss. I don't think you should think about it that much, because most of the time, as someone who has trouble getting my dots on a boss, there's 2 bugs. They can't be affected by a certain number of debuffs, which is understandable. And then there's the other issue where applying too many debuffs at the same time causes debuffs to fail to prioritize. If you're ever placing a dot on a target and it's, you put the dot on, it doesn't say that there was no effect, but you also don't see it on the little bar under their name, there's a good chance that it just didn't prioritize all the way to the front. And you'll notice that when you try to reapply it, no matter how many times you do it again and again, you never see it reprioritize. In order to get it to reprioritize, you need, and I say need, to pretty much wait for the duration of it to fall off. And I've tested this a number of times. It's always worked flawlessly. I can tell that I'm dealing the damage pretty much, but it's just not in a way that is visible to me. I think you should just keep dotting up like you have been doing, because odds are your dots are going to get lost in the process just like mine do anyway, just because of the sheer number of dots being applied at once. Later on in the fight, when there's more targets to fight, that happens in every fight where there's just eventually there's more than one target available. I can think about it for pretty much every fight. Yeah, Arachne, definitely Forgalt, definitely Ozma, and Calphisteri. Calphisteri, not so much until you get to the Bijous, but because in the last phase, she's pretty much is 100% uptime. But still happens. People have to leave the boss and they lose dots and whatnot. So I'd say you're fine to just chug along, do all the dots, do all the stone 3s, do all the whatever you're doing, depending on your job, and just keep on doing what you're doing. Don't hold back. All right, next question. No hello? Sad face. What are your thoughts on Nintendo? Do you think they will do enough to gain gamers' faith in their platform? So, this is a very delicate question. I'm going to answer it very delicately. Nintendo has made some of the greatest games of all time, and even to this day, still look to create games that will leave impressions on us. Whether that's been from when they used the Wii, to the Wii U, to the 3DS, all the way back to their attempt at the Virtual Boy. Regardless, they've left some of the biggest impressions on me, especially things like Pokemon and Super Mario and Metroid and all that good stuff. That being said, recently their decisions as a company are not ones I can particularly agree with, especially you asking me this as a content creator. I would love to produce more video content on Nintendo games. I mean, look at my demographic. I create videos mostly for Final Fantasy XIV and RPGs. I love turn-based RPGs. By that measure, Pokemon should have been a perfect thing for me to do right from the get-go, but I'm just getting to it now because I'm finding out more and more about what I can do on YouTube and what I can't. That's because I have to be fearful of every video I post on YouTube being claimed entirely by Nintendo. And while I can do them occasionally for fun, sometimes it's just a pain and I don't want to deal with it. I don't even want to have to think if my video is going to get taken by Nintendo or claimed by them in some way, shape, or form. So I think that they still make great games. I think they've had a few hiccups. Star Fox was... I don't know why. I don't know what happened. But things like Mario Maker, easily one of the most entertaining games they've come out with in years. And I think that this next Legend of Zelda, it's gonna 10 out of 10 like Skyward Sword did. I don't know. It's got the humor, it's got Link, it's got things you expect from a Legend of Zelda game, and it's got a huge world. I mean, I have a feeling Nintendo's going to kill it with their NX. I just think they will, as much as they like to believe they're being a step ahead, they will very often be a step behind in terms of the strength of their hardware. Hopefully they can prove me wrong, because I want them to. I don't want Nintendo to fall into obscurity like Sega. I want them to keep producing what they do. And I think they should. I think that one of their biggest advantages is that they actually show their mobile devices a bit of love. Sony, you can learn a thing or two about that. Next question. Yo, Happy. What's up? My current free company is me and my two friends. Just imagine that song from like Lonely Island. Just two guys and we're having a good time. Having a good time. Having a good time. Anyway, but I want to grow and form an actual community raid team at the very least. Do you have any tips on how to grow it? You gotta put yourself out there, dude. Rule number one, don't ask me, just do it. That's it. There's no strategizing here. As long as you are ready to take on new responsibilities, that's the first thing you have to ask yourself. Are you ready to have people complaining they don't like other people? Are you ready to have people that you can't stand but you feel bad about removing them from the community? Are you prepared to manage people? Excuse me, I had a hiccup. Are you ready to manage people? Because that is what you are basically asking. When you want to grow a community, you have to be ready to manage people. And a lot of the times, they won't want managing. They'll just want to be able to say and do whatever they want with no sort of repercussions or any sort of involvement from outside world. This is my problem, it's not your problem. But when you're disrupting the community, it becomes everyone's problem. So that is the biggest question you have to ask yourself. If you answer that question, say yes, get out there, make posts, put yourself in the party finder, shout in zones, whatever. Get some attention. Whatever you do, if you're going to invite somebody, don't invite random people to your free company. Please at least send them a go, hey, I'm making a social free company. I noticed you didn't have one. Do you have any interest? We want to be helpful. We want to grow. Be very forward about what you want to accomplish with the people you want to recruit. All right, next one. Hello, mister. I had a very important question for you. Then I realized it was lame. So, yeah. Okay, bye. Bye. On that note, next question. What's the haps? I don't understand. What does that mean? What? I mean, I could understand what's happening, like happy happening. Haps. What's the haps? What's the happening? I don't know. A lot of people say it. Not a first-time asker, but hopefully first time getting onto your show. So here's a bonus of 9,001 Umbrights. Okay, sir, let me just tell you, you can take about 8,921 of those back to the store, get your money back, buy yourself a pizza. I don't know what it is you're going to do with all those Umbrights, but I only need 80, but thank you. So feel free to answer one question or both. Don't want to take up too much of your time. I appreciate that. Okay. This actually, I read the first line as I was trying to scroll through right here, and I kind of like this one. I was wondering if your move to San Diego has affected you as a content creator, having grown up there and seen the city's transformation into this hub for nerd culture through Comic-Con's gradual expansion, that's next weekend, and beating out the Chargers for an updated venue, the huge collector's market, and the exposure through folks like yourself and Pat. Pat lives out here? I don't know, I never met Pat at NES Punk. good, cool guy though. Really curious as to what to know how being in San Diego has affected your work behind the scenes. I'd say the only way it affected my work is that it was I had to just get used to the environment again. I had to get used to how hot it was. I had to get used to how far I had to walk to get someplace, or I guess the people around here, like how they drive, how they interact with each other. But I wouldn't say that, other than just the time it took to get situated here, that the move to San Diego, if anything, made me more responsible, made me better. I don't know if better is the right word. I've been trying to learn more, but I don't think that San Diego itself has affected me, because I'm super introvert, dude. Like, Pokemon Go is the most I've been outside and like since I moved here, I think. So I don't think it's changed me that much. But I think if I was someone who was more outgoing, probably would have affected me some way. It's quiet here. I like it. My next question is more to pick your brain about the job system and your use of classes versus jobs. Okay. After getting your Soulstone, have you ever switched back to your class to access Protect Heal buffs for doing Soul PvE content? Because as you say here, that is what the devs wanted us to do. Now, I marauded in the Wolves' Den at level 50. And I marauded in the occasional Frontlines match. I think I archered once, just because it's hilarious when someone thinks they're going to kill you, and then you swift cast Stone Skin as an archer to get away. And I learned that trick from a friend who beat my ass with it over at the last fan festival. Thank you, Emp. Thank you so much. But anyway, no, I mean, class system's pretty dumb. It's weird that a job that, like Warrior, for example, it's like, oh man, I'm a tank. I need to know how to tank swap. Okay, how do I do that? Well, you have no job. You have no abilities in your job. You got to go get this other ability from this other class. Oh, well, I mean, I guess that means it's not mandatory, right? No, yeah, it's mandatory. You got to do it. Like, just the weird thing of having abilities that feel integral to your job, not actually built into your job, is really, really strange. On top of that, classes never accomplish that whole, hey, I want to do things solo, so let me do it as a class. It does occasionally, but it's so infrequent that I feel like that purpose was completely lost. I wouldn't be surprised if we never got another class again. In fact, I don't think we will ever get another class again. I wouldn't be surprised if they got rid of that class system altogether at some point. I don't know when, but just get rid of it. Like, you know what would help? The fact that if they got rid of the class system, that means they can remove all the Soulstone spots for the jobs. And then I guess for crafters, technically they still need Soulstones for their specialties. But still, like, that's still a number of items, slots you could remove from there and put into other things like a tackle box or more inventory space for the rest of us, you know, things like that. So hopefully that was a good answer. Also, Casa Guadalajara in Old Town, and I have a plate of fajitas, best tortillas in the world. I'll keep that in mind. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Long time no see. I recognize the name. I've already coached up, or catched up. Coached up? Really? That's what I get for reading your name and the sentence at the same time. And your bonus is fresh baked chocolate chip cookies. I literally demolished an entire carton of chocolate chip cookies. They weren't fresh baked because they were mailed to us as a gift, but I still demolished them, and now they're gone. And I have to use the restroom. But not right now. All right, I know these types of questions, so here's a non-14 one and a 14 one. I know you like these. I don't think anyone's ever told me, I know you like these kind of questions. Like, yeah, I know you like it. Yeah. All right. One, I want your opinion in this matter. My girlfriend is leaving the country in about a month and a few weeks, and she suggested that we play something in common just to do something together. Besides the typical how was your day and all that stuff, she never played anything online, and the only game she's played is The Last of Us and Darkest Dungeon. What kind of rap sheet is that? That's a hell of a rap sheet. I told her to play 14 with me because it's a really good game. 1B, what do you think is a good replacement for 14 if you think it's a bad idea? I don't think it's a bad idea, but you need to understand something very, very particular. You do not play this game without her on that character. You understand that? If you make a character to play with her, you only play with her. One thing that, so me and Mel, we did Final Fantasy 14, and honestly, it wasn't so much that we did it, it was that I played nonstop because of doing Twitch and doing YouTube, so she wanted, reasonably, to spend a bit more time, so she made the effort to play, even though she's not exactly the biggest fan of Final Fantasy 14, doesn't like it. She's more of a Ragnarok Online kind of person. And so, but all along the way, I just kept playing it like I normally played it, and that led to me rushing her, that led to me getting things done when she wasn't online on the character, and it wasn't good. That wasn't good for bonding. So I think it's a fine idea. I think it's probably one of your best options because it's not super competitive. It's story driven. There's plenty of conversational pieces there. As long as you're willing to not go at the pace that you're used to playing, you have to go at the pace that works for both of you. Okay? 2, I'm returning to 14 after a break, so you haven't played in a while. That kind of helps with the last question. And I got my 210 anim. I'm a bit overwhelmed with both quests for the 230 and 240. So I'm about to do a second one because I'm a bit burned up about the ninja. Question is, should I end my 240 nin anim or begin the monk dragoon? I'd say finish it. That 240 step, honestly, the worst part about it is the umbrites. And if you just do a few roulettes a day, even if you wanted to speed it up a little bit, do some, what are they called? Aethorochemical research facilities or some towers, then that'll speed things up a little bit. You don't have to do that. You could really just do your roulettes every day. And I know that's still a bit time consuming, but if anything, don't forget, Deep Dungeon's going to have a weapon that's anywhere from item level 230 to 235. I'm going to guess 230. But there's going to be a weapon around that range coming from Deep Dungeon, so if you don't feel the need to get your 240 very quickly, upgrade it to the 230 step, and then you can also do Deep Dungeon to get a 230 weapon, and then very slowly work it towards the 240. Don't rush yourself. I'm sure eventually they'll make umbrites more available, but for now, that's how it is, and I think you should definitely focus on the current anima before starting another 210 one. That sounds like an awful idea. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Late congratulations for Mondays with Mr. Happy Week 100. Thank you, my friend. I have 4 questions. If you can't answer them all, please prioritize. I think we have enough time to answer them all. I think I have only a handful. I think I only have one more question after. Oh, yeah, I think I only do. Perfect. That means I can answer all of them. Okay. So. 1, I'm assuming that I am not getting Maiden Savage gear. Assuming that I am not getting it. Should I get those pally pieces from Weeping City without plus parry? Yeah, I-230. Yeah, check which ones are better than the unupgraded I-230 pieces you're getting. Because don't forget that you can upgrade your lore armor to I-240 from Weeping City plus Void Arc with the Maki Penny and the Maki Farthing, and also from doing the hunt. So you do, have access to I-240 pieces. You just have to pick and choose which ones. Get the good pieces from the Weeping City that are I-230. I think the legs, especially as a tank, yeah, the legs, the tank legs from Weeping City are fantastic. So look into those and look to get whatever you can that doesn't have plus parry on it. 2, same assumption as before. For Black Mage, which pieces would be better to get? See, that I can't answer because I don't know the pieces off the top of my head, especially not for Black Mage. The legs for the Paladin are one of the few pieces I actually know what the stats are. I had to think about it again. I have them, but I don't remember what they do. They're really good. Everybody loves the tank pants, but I don't know about Black Mage pieces. 3, I have an alchemist and an armor specialist looking on getting a 3rd one. I'm leaning towards blacksmith or goldsmith. Goldsmith is usually pretty decent money. You have alchemist, which is a big one. Culinarian, I don't think is that important. Man, you know what? Here's what I recommend. We did a State of the Realm with Ash 10 on it, and he is someone with almost 2 billion gil who knows everything imaginable about crafting and gathering. Watch that episode because I believe we actually discussed that exact point, and coming out of his mouth, it is way more valuable than coming out of mine. And question number 4, do you know any great guides? I don't know any Black Mage guides. Who was the guy? His name began with a P. Puro Strider. I don't think he makes guides anymore. That's a good question. I don't know any off the top of my head. But I know they're out there. Pure Strider is just the only Black Mage name I remember, and I'm not 100% sure if he still makes Black Mage guides. Reddit. Recommend it. Check it. Search it. I think you'll be okay if you check over there. All right, and the final question for this week, by the way, yeah, I didn't live stream this episode this week. I was just tired, so I took a break day. So this is just without the Twitch chat questions. Hey, Happy, I have a question for you regarding Dragoon gear. But first, have a Pokemon Go bonus of your choosing. What do I want from Pokemon Go? Mewtwo. Whatever. Oh. Okay, I just noticed that I don't have a final question. Got an early answer, but keep that bonus. What was the question? So I can answer it for the other people who are watching. Anywho, the augmented slipstream body piece lacks both crit and det, whereas the Yaffy male from the Weeping City has both, despite the lower strength vit threshold, 10 and 12 respectively. Would the eye level 230 scale better damage-wise, or is it safer bet to stick with the eye level 240 despite it failing in the crit det report? Slipstream body. Is that ninja? augmented slipstream male? Male of maiming? Is it the Dragoon one? Did he say Dragoon? He said Yafi male, so I'm assuming yes. Augmented slipstream. Yeah, it has to be because it's the only one with slipstream in the name. Yeah, it's Dragoon. So it has accuracy, skill speed. Wow. So unless you need that accuracy, let's see, what's the difference? So you said that it has 10 and 12 less vitality. So the vitality I don't care about. The strength I care about. So 10 strength. It's approximately, it's a little bit less than a weapon damage here. So let's see, 112 accuracy, 78 skill speed. And then the Yafim body, you've actually given me a link to the combination of the two. Okay, I could have just clicked the link, I suppose. So yeah, it has 74 crit, it has 101 determination. So remember, guys, he linked this to me, ffxiv.ariala.com. It is the website that I prefer to use whenever it comes to that. You can see it actually replaced the link here on the stream. So here, why don't we blow this up real quick. So he's asking between two pieces of armor right here. So these are the stat values that you're. Oh, you kind of can't see them entirely. Let me save you some effort here. Oh no, that's not working. All right. How about right? Ready for it? You guys ready for it? We're gonna just check the stat weights for Dragoon real quick. That's all we're doing right here. So Ariala for most jobs has accurate stat weights. Some jobs it does not. So here we go. So here are the stat weights for Dragoon. You have 0.23 for critical hit. Remember, the base, as you can see, strength is equal to 1. Everything else is based off that. So 1 weapon damage is equivalent to 12.241 strength, and that'll give you an idea what we're looking at the rest here. So 0.23 critical hit rate per point, 0.168 determination, 0.131 skill speed. So all you're going to need to do here, as you said, you already have the answer, but I'm still going to help out. It's 10 strength, and that's how much damage you're going to be dealing. So it's about 5/6, slightly less of weapon damage. So let's look at the critical hit rate right here. Critical hit rate of the Yafim male, that's right here, is 74. So 74 times 0.23. So let's do times 10. So you just do crit times 10 and you get 2.3. And then you multiply that by 7. You already have more than the 1 weapon damage that you're missing from having the piece. Now keep in mind, we do have to factor in that it does have 78 skill speed, the augmented one. So 78 times 0.131. That would be, so then you multiply that by, it's approximately times 8. So you might as well just do 0.131 times 10, that's 1.31 times 8. So you get the 8, you get 3, that's 2.4, that's 7.4. Yeah, it's approximately just about 21 strength worth of, 21 strength worth of stats on the I-240 piece. And then you have the 74 alone, which is going to be the 2.3 times the, let's just say times the 70 for now. So 10, so it's 2.3 times 7, that's 14. And you get 21, 16.1 alone. The 101 determination, man, you don't even need to math that out, dude. You can already tell that 230 piece is definitely going to pull ahead. Now, just so you know, scaling for stats changes as you acquire more strength, as you acquire more weapon damage. That being said, it should be a clear and shut case that the I-230 body is actually better than the I-240 body in this case. That being said, the Maiden Jacket of Maiming would, of course, be the absolute best in slot, assuming you don't need the 112 accuracy for anything on the augmented lore body piece, because it has the same crit det stats, but just slightly more of them, as well as the increase in the strength. So, with all that math out of the way, thank you for asking questions this week, everyone, for Mondays with Mr. Happy. Remember, if you have a video question, you can submit it to the email address that is in the description of the video below. If you have a question that you would just like to post on the forums, you can find those forums in the description of the video below. Also, you can find other videos right here-ish. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to the gym as well, so I'm just going to stretch while I tell you where these videos are. There you go. Do I look any stronger yet? No, I still look fat. All right, that's fine. Anyway, I am going to wrap this up. I'm going to get this rendered and out to you guys so it's out on time Monday. Remember, Deep Dungeon, I am Setsuna. Tuesday, be there. If you don't know my stream schedule, 9 a.m. is when we start. Might start sooner. If I do, I'll put that in the section down below. Or I'll make a video before I go live or something on Tuesday. You'll see it. Anyway, thank you for watching, everyone, this week. I will see you next week. And until then, take care.